mathematics, arts and creative or sports. And before I converse with my guest this particular morning, I want to show you the story we had for you than the cabinet. Julius Migos, principal. Look at that, and of course I'll introduce you to my guest this morning.
For the first term of the academic year, a spot check that in some schools there. However, Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos, while on an inspection tour of Kajiado County, defended the government's handling of the transition of students from primary to junior secondary school.
The transition is smooth, and where there are challenges, all of our field officers are actually out today to ensure that where there is a challenge, it is escalated and a solution is found, including where we are merging classes of the lower grades so that the grade 9 are not affected.
The issue of desk is a problem because they were not factored in. Na nafikiri hiyo ni muhimu tukifanya supplementary budget, we budget for lockers ili kila mtoto apate locker yake, kwa sababu kuambia mzazi arudi kwa mfuko huenda itakuwa ni shida na uwezo wao.
The CS further said at least 76,000 GSS teachers have been deployed across the country to ensure smooth learning, with the ministry roping in the primary school teachers to fill the gap in junior secondary classes in case there is any.
The teachers have also been availed. We did we've done almost 76,000 teachers for JSS, and in areas where they are not enough, there is an amalgamation of the primary teachers who are being, moved up to teach the JSS classes depending on their competencies.
The CS at the same time warned head teachers against sending learners home for lack of school fees. In the meantime, Basic Education Principal Secretary Dr. Belio Kipsang, who toured various schools within Nairobi Metropolitan, said a multi-agency team will soon be formed to assess infrastructure requirements in all schools to ensure there is no congestion.
At the end of this exercise of settling down our grade 9, we shall again have another multi-agency team who will be doing an assessment of infrastructure requirements in our schools, so that we don't only finish grade 9 and then again in a short while we are having other challenges in congestion in the lower classes.
A section of teachers and parents have, however, called on the government to move with speed to ensure learning is not paralyzed as a result of lack of basic infrastructure requirement in schools.
Especially kama wazazi, watoto wakikuja shule wanapata facilities, they are already there. But this is a good step and we really appreciate it. The government is also doing something good, because of funding all this.
Kujenga madarasa pasipo na madawati na pia walimu wapate kuajiriwa kwa wingi ili wanafunzi wapate kunufaika.
We are also excited for new classrooms. Well, the block is not complete, but through the government and especially through the national government CDF Westlands, we received a block, a 10 classroom block that is coming up and will be nearing completion.
And that is the status update on when it comes to the reopening of schools and, of course, the transition of grade 9 students. You do know we're also waiting for KPSEA results. The government has so far created over 13,000 classrooms that have been constructed across the country. In the second phase, it will involve 7,500 classrooms, is already underway and on track, according to the ministry, and, of course, be ready by the end of January 2025, with the National Government Constituency Development Fund, which is the NGCDF, has also stepped in to facilitate the building of additional 6,800 classrooms. You do know that here in the capital, Nairobi, which has one of the largest students in the country, has seen the government set aside at least 1.1 billion shillings for the construction of classrooms, with each classroom expected to cost $1 million shilling each. In the special allocation, Nairobi County received 1 billion to address the unique infrastructure challenges here in the capital. And of course, to finance this particular initiative, the ministry has released 65.2 billion shillings for free day secondary education, 35.3 billion shillings for junior schools, as well as 9.36 billion for primary schools. That is the status update. Now let me get to introduce you to my guest this particular morning. Joining me on set is Irene Kamau, the director of Kasarani Group of Schools. Welcome to the show, Irene.
Thank you very much.
And of course, next to Irene is Peter Dubai, an education expert. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And of course, finally, on the furthest end is Silas David, the national chairman of the Parent Association. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, and Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you too as well. And let me start with you, Irene. Given that at the end of the day, you're the director of Kasarani Group of Schools, the schools reopened early on Monday.
Yes.
How is the transition so far?
The schools reopened earlier on Monday, and the transition is just transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
We are transitioning first and foremost, bringing the children back from holiday, back into the school, so that we can have the mental framework that is required for that. But on a professional angle, the transitioning is a little bit chaotic on the ground. We're trying to put things together. Most of the schools are still asking questions. We're still running around trying to patch up things, especially on the grade 9. And we are still expecting to know exactly how things will be for the grade 9. But generally, the transitioning from grade 6 going to grade 7, for us, where I come from, it's 100% at Kasarani Group of Schools, but with a lot of questions than answers. As we speak right now, parents have very many questions, but the answers that we need to give them need to come from an understanding of exactly what is going on with the CBC curriculum on matters junior secondary. I guess where the challenge is in this transition of the learners is in the junior secondary. For example, I had a tough time yesterday even trying to imagine how to get the textbooks for grade 9. That was a big issue for us. As we are speaking, we don't even know how to go about it. We've been told that we can use the books that were being used before, but the curriculum has changed in such a way that, for example, when they merge some of the learning areas, they are only bringing in one topic from the previous learning area into the new content. So we have structural challenges in terms of the structure of education, the transitioning itself, and then we have content challenges, because the content itself requires even more retooling of our teachers. And then we also have the parental gaps. Parents are completely unaware what to expect for their children, even the ones who are going to grade 9. We have to talk to them about stuff. The transition is a little bit chaotic, a little bit messy, or maybe not very clear. However, if we were to be given guidelines, then it would be a little bit more settling for parents, for teachers, and for schools. Especially for us who are running schools, it's more dire. It's a dire need, because the parents are looking to us for answers. One of the questions that I've been grappling with, or that I have had so far, I've been asked, Teacher Irene, when are you calling us to come and select schools? Now I don't have an answer. When are you calling us to come and select schools for which to go to? Now they need to first and foremost understand what all that involves. The government needs to speak to us about what exactly they have in store, the Ministry of Education, concerning that transition. Parents' mind is not just on the grade 9. It's also into the transition to the high school, the senior school. What will my child learn? Is it on the STEM? Is it on the social, the humanities, or the sports sciences? What will my child be given? Who will give them? Do they give themselves according to abilities? Will the government have a structure? Will they have a program or a method of placing this child in high school? Parents are in total darkness, but the learners, being the final recipients of exactly what we are doing in terms of CBC and transition and implementation, is the final person to consume the services that we are offering. So the learner, as we speak today, is in class. 100% they showed up, but we don't even know how to help them understand how will you end up doing sciences or STEM, how will you end up doing social sciences, humanities, or how will you end up doing sports sciences? How will they gauge you? 2, what kind of assessment will be offered to these kids? Over the years, as we have come through, this is the first group, sadly so, to ever be tested on all the stages of CBC. And as we speak, even the kind of examinations they are talking to us about, they are telling us that we will administer, is multiple choice questions. Understand, this kid has never really done any multiple choice examination at all, totally, in life. It's the first time they are hearing it. So we have exactly 1 year to train these children and get them thoroughly trained on how to handle multiple choices. Exactly 1 year to cover that syllabus that we have been given, and exactly 1 year to prepare them to transition to senior secondary. So I'm looking at a tight squeeze.
I'll be coming back to you. Thank you for that particular update, especially from the classrooms there. Given that we have even the national chairman of the Parents Association here, Mr. Silas, what are some of the issues parents have brought forth to your desk?
Thank you. One thing I want to say is that the opening of schools has taken place and will still go on. Rome was not built in a single day. It's a big city, just like the population of the children that we have in schools in Kenya here. So one thing is, we want to understand, you know, we are so much speaking about grade 9 alone. We are not even now looking at the preschool. They are also joining baby school and all that coming on board in CBC. So as much as we are talking about grade 9, down here there could be other problems that we are not speaking about right now. And the same problem will arise again in the future to affect these other classes. So since we are focusing on grade 9, I want to say that there's been complaint of infrastructure, which the parents have been raising, that the classrooms are not there. And there's been an issue of the teachers. Teachers are not there. Teachers are not trained. Employment of the teachers has not taken place. There is congestion in some schools, which is an issue also, and a number of things that Madam has talked about. But I normally say that the government is not there to fail. The government never fails in this agenda. It will always just go the same track and make it succeed. Like now, on the issue of the infrastructure about the classrooms for grade 9, the PS clearly stated that 93% of the classrooms had been done. Now, 93% is not 1%. You look at that. You can imagine how much money the government has put in to do 93% of the classrooms. So out of the 16,000 classrooms, if they talk about 93%, it means almost 15 or 14,000 classrooms have been completed. That is a mark for the government. Secondly, the same government yesterday, the CS and the PS, you have seen them explaining there, the shifting of children to grade 9, as much as it has teething problems, we can come into make a shift of having children learn in shifts in those schools where the classrooms have not been done. There are reasons why those classrooms in those schools have been done, and investigations are going on to understand why were they not done on time, who was to do it, why he or she has not done it, what is the end result of that. The government is finding out on what happened. Because money was given and the classrooms were not done, there's a question to understand who failed in doing this work. Because the government did its work. So at the school level, we want to understand why were the classrooms not done. So when it comes to that question, is a short-lived kind of a thing that if we can agree. You remember some time back, His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto, when we had the issues of grade 8 classrooms and the issues of the laboratories and all these other equipment, it was agreed that even public school children can visit private schools where they have what? The facilities, and they can share. But in between, the issue comes in. The issue of distance, the issue of security. How sure are you that a child can walk from Nairobi Primary School to go to Mpakazi Primary School to go and do practicals and come back? You see that those issues are there. So with the CBC, this being the first cohort of grade 9 that we are having, we are trying. The government is trying. You remember, every new system of education has its own teething problems. But at one point, it just come to be smooth and gone. Even when we began the 844 system, I was in the old system of CPE. When they brought 844 system, I never imagined, even when I was crossing to go to Form 1, I was asking myself, now what's this 844 system? You see, because I was asking now, how will these children understand what this is all about? What are they talking about? And there are a lot of complaints that 844 system will not work, is a failure, the government will fail. The 844 system came and succeeded. Only that in the course of line of implementation, things also arose. So for now, I will urge this, that since schools have opened and we have these issues of classrooms not being enough, let us first of all ask ourselves, what is the remedy, what's the immediate solution that can apply to have grade 9 children in school that are being at home? For example, somebody was asking me this morning, when the PS is saying that we can do shift make of classrooms, how will that happen? Now, the person who was asking me this is a person who was in school yesterday. Me, I was in school a long time ago. Morning hours, we will have lower classes going to school. In the afternoon, we will have upper classes going to school. And the education was going on smoothly, as long as the syllabus is being covered. So, we have to remain focused. We don't spend time complaining. Let us spend time doing what? Finding solutions. Okay. The other issue, as I finish, you know, I heard the Parents Association, and I don't like cheating parents. I will not speak evil about the government because I heard the Parents Association. And neither will I speak evil about the parent because I speak about the government. One thing is, for example, you saw a school in Kisii. On the last day of opening is when the parents came out and raised material to do classrooms. Now, this school has been there. This board of management in that school has been there for the last 3 years in place. They knew that grade 9 will be coming in place. And there was no classroom. They saw the government had not done the classrooms. If we had that spirit of Arambe that they brought in the last day, even if the classroom is of Mabati, still it can work. If those parents had done that earlier, in November, do you think they would have had this problem on the opening day? They would have had it because they knew definitely by January there will be no classroom for grade 9. And they are the parents. These are their children. We are Kenyans. What are we doing? Are we just there to blame the government? Okay. So parents, finally I want to say this. Parents don't have information on CBC. That's the problem. Nobody has ever had interest in telling parents what CBC is, how they can go about.
Then who has failed in that regard of not informing?
Now I'm coming there now. This is on the only part where the government has failed. Sometimes parents on CBC. Because teachers are being trained. Education officers are being trained, that are in the field doing their work. Parents are the major stakeholders in the education sector. They supply schools with the children. Now there's a new curriculum going on which parents don't understand. So even when you talk about grade 9, as my sister is saying about, even transiting of these children and taking the new pathways, some parents don't even understand what are pathways. They don't even know. Some parents are still talking about subjects. They don't know what the difference between subjects and strands. They don't understand these things. Some parents are still talking about my child is going to standard 9. They don't understand that this is grade 9, the difference between standard 9 and grade 9. So parents require sensitization and they require full involvement in the CBSE implementation in this country if it has got to succeed 100%. Okay. Thank you.
And of course, Mr. Peter, you've just the issues that have been raised by Irene and Silas in terms of in the transition and the teething issues, we agree here that there are teething issues. So from your point of view, what should be the key ingredient that the government, especially through the Ministry of Education, needs to inject in the education sector to make this transition that smooth?
I think first thing, the government should have involved the public. The parents, the public, they know what is happening, what is CBC. When you check even the radios or TVs, when the parent went to buy books, they don't even know which book to buy. They don't know where to get them. The students themselves, they don't know what is happening. What is happening is that infrastructure is the major thing, which the government promised long time ago they are going to build enough. The one we can see, where my friend has said, mentioned, I think the parent came last when they saw that the government not put up the building. You have to do it, the children have to be in school. That's why they intend a fundraising to do it. And fundraising is going around the country. It's not even everywhere. Where I come from, we always called for the classes are not there, the tables are not there. That's been a challenge. The government should have involved everybody. They should have explained, before even we started opening school, they should have explained the public This is what is going to happen. This is required. Those are the books required. Those are the subjects. Everything should be known early enough. Where the government is suggesting that we can do, we can move from one school to another, this is not possible. Because like now she is in private school. You cannot, it's not possible for her to allow other students from outside to come to her school because the facilities there, they are enough for the students who are there. And when you say you can come in the morning, others come in the evening, it's not practical in our area. Let's say in the rural areas, how will a student who walks maybe 5-10 kilometers to school, walk to school, to another school, and go back home? Because most of them in a village, they walk to school, many kilometers, most of them. They will go to new school. Other schools, which alternative schools in a village, they are very far. They are not nearby. Maybe Nairobi or city town centers is possible. But the village, where the majority of students are, there are no facilities nearby. Maybe there is a school, one village there, another one somewhere else very far. It's not possible. I think the government should have, because the government plans in advance, when they thought that the CBC is going to be implemented, they should have started early enough, prepare the schools, infrastructure, the classrooms, number of students who will be there, because they know the numbers. I think the minister already knows the number of the students in Kenya who are going to be in primary school, who are going to be class 9. They already know the requirement number, so that they prepare enough, so that there is no outcry like we have now. You can go to a textbook center to buy books. The parents are not complaining, or the people who are selling books, they don't have them. And the students are supposed to be in school using the same books. What is going to happen? We're convincing the parent and the student, the learners, because they are the ones who are affected. And in Kenya, Kenya has been, our strength has been education. That's why you see in government now, even taking people to employment outside, because we are skilled, we have better learning institution and good skills. When we interrupt that, we will affect our country somehow. Yes.
Okay. Irene, you were earlier talking about those textbooks. It was just last week we even saw some of the textbook centers, not just here in the capital, across the country. They were saying those textbooks are not available, with the government saying it has availed them, especially in various schools. So out of the textbooks that are required, how many are expected to be used, especially for grade 9?
Well, thank you for that question. It's actually it's kind of the elephant in the room in the grade 9 transition right now. Everybody's talking about the textbooks. The textbooks, the textbooks, the textbooks. Surprisingly, I have seen there are approved textbooks by KICD. We have a list. And if you go to their portal, there is a list. But unfortunately, there are some unscrupulous people, I don't know which one they are, that have been able to penetrate the system, and there are some books that are doing rounds, but are not approved, but they have the stamp, reading approved, bringing heightening more of the confusion on matters textbooks. The other thing is that the textbooks were supposed to be provided for the public schools by the Ministry of Education through the funding system. And then the private schools are supposed to get the same books at a higher cost. And so bringing me to the question of why would the private schools be required to pay more for the same textbook that their counterparts in public schools are paying less? The child is the same. Both of them are public children, they are government children, they are a resource for the nation of Kenya. So that is something that is still coming out as an issue. And then the issue of availing the textbooks, there is heavy wastage, sorry to say so. and I say that very respectfully to whoever is in charge of making of our curriculum, check on the waste. The hemorrhage is too high. We are having to throw away very many textbooks. I tell you, come to our library, we show you the stock of books that have been all of a sudden done null and void. They have been rendered null and void by the changes of the content, internal content of that book. I can't use those books at all, zero. I have to throw it away. It was only bought last year. So many libraries in schools in Kenya are in the same predicament I am in. Like those textbooks are wasted in millions of shillings. All of it has gone down the drain.
Okay, maybe Kenyans who are watching you right now, they want to understand these new textbooks that are being purchased. How is it different from the previous ones that were being used? Is it skill oriented? What is it targeting to ensure the learners learn?
This is what has happened. The curriculum itself has changed the content. Some lessons, some learning areas have been merged. And when they were merged, some topics they were done away with and others were adapted. As a result, you realize, for example, if we had something like, for example, let's say sports, and we had it as standalone, then, and if we merge, 90% of what was in that textbook cannot be used in the new requirement. So that book becomes irrelevant, it's useless. And that has happened for very many learning areas. So that the books that are able to maintain the content for which they were supposed to be serving are very few. Because even on learning areas like mathematics and English, you'd still discover that there was a lot of changes that have happened that makes it impossible for us as teachers to implement the previous textbooks in its format. It's something new has to happen. Bringing us to that challenge that we are talking about, the clogging of parents in textbook centers trying to buy textbooks will actually be heightened more by the inability of the publishers to process and avail the book at the rate at which it is required. So for the whole of this term, I see a situation where we either have to improvise and get that information, maybe by downloading from the KICD portal, they make it available, that we can download content and be able to implement. Here is the other catch, or the other challenge, is on the curriculum design itself. The curriculum design that we were using in the past, up to last year, the end of last year, is no longer usable. So none of the teachers in the nation of Kenya can be able to use the design that they used last year to prepare the schemes of work, the lesson plans. They can't use it anymore. Even the digital content makers have to reshift to the new curriculum design. So as we are speaking right now, it is either KICD avails it online, then we send our teachers and our Dean of Studies or heads of academics to download content for grade 9. As if that's not crazy enough, as in it's a little bit of a mouthful, there is need to have an integration of practicals in our science subjects as it is currently, requiring facilities and infrastructure of a higher caliber and of a higher level and standard than was there seen in the previous education systems. So currently, as we are speaking, grade 9 will have to sit paper 1 and paper 2 in the assessment, in the KJA. Paper 1 being the purely on theories and paper 2 being purely on practicals. Many schools currently are having an outcry of classrooms, basic. Yet we are supposed to have an assessment or an examination, and it's actually an assessment at the end of the year, where they will be required to sit for a practical in sciences in a lab. So we need to provide a lab. We also need to provide digital literacy, a computer lab. Then these children are supposed to prepare them, to be prepared to know whether to go to STEM, whether to go to humanities, or whether to go to the other one. If they are to take humanities, we require that the schools have the relevant facilities for children to have done that which is supposed to be done practically. The practicality of the projects that we are doing in the authentic tasks is that we are given projects. For example, last year but one we had a project on animals, domestic animals, and schools were able to execute perfectly. You should have seen the synergy of the schools. It was beautifully done, because to get the goats, to bring them in there, get the rabbits, get the children, do the chickens, and it's accessible, it's doable. Probably what I would be requiring, or I would be asking the people who are going to set even those assessment or exams, is to look at the practicality of all schools, so that the schools that are endowed with resources do not have an upper hand over those like in the rural area, in the Wajir country, in the marginalized areas, even in Nairobi, there are some schools like in Kibera area that probably they cannot be able to access these things. So we are looking at CBC attempting to give us equality in education, but somehow in the implementation, gaps in equality begins to come out for many types of schools. So maybe there is a need for, like my good friend Silas has said, when the government creates that other group of people that they want to put together to look at the gaps in terms, I think I also had it with our leaders in the Ministry of Education. When Honorable Belio Kipsang talks about the need for that group of people that will look at the gaps that we are having today, I would request that probably they also look at those gaps that are coming up, not because they were gaps initially, but in the process of implementation, they kind of come out gaping. For example, when you say digital literacy, you are assuming only the child-based digital literacy. But the gap that has come out, that has not been addressed so far by anyone as we speak, is on the teacher digital literacy gap. Would you care to know that there is a teacher who is still using the Kamulika Mwizi Katululu, cannot be able to key in anything and cannot be able to download anything as we speak today? That is a genuine reality in our schools today. And that teacher is expected to deliver all the learning areas, all of them are covered. At the end of every lesson, every session that we are having learning experience, teaching and learning experience, there is a line written here on digital literacy. So all teachers must be literate. Yet in the retooling, we are retooling them largely on content. And even as we are retooling those teachers, I'm hearing teachers speaking to me and saying, Teacher Irene, it's the same thing we did last time. It's the same thing we did last time. So in the retooling, we need to also come up with an improved way of this batch that is retooled this time, is retooled differently with additional information and abilities enhancement, skills and capacity building differently as they go for the next round.
Let me go to Silas. You've just heard from some of the inequalities that are coming up. Have parents raised these issues, especially when it comes to the textbook? The elephant here in the room in terms of purchasing those particular textbooks is the cost. So is it affordable for the parents to even procure these textbooks? Because we saw them flocking to the textbook centers.
Just from what Irene has said, the first thing you want to understand is that, you know, when a curriculum is designed for a particular period. It's not for a day. So when we prepare books for grade 1, based on the CBC, whatever plan of arrangement, we understand that these books for grade 1 may serve for 4 or 5 years without changing them. Because the KICD has the curriculum, has the content on the curriculum. It knows that this is what grade 1 will do, grade 2, 3, like that. So when we do a textbook, for example, for grade 1 this year, the next year we wake up again and change this textbook all overnight. And actually what we are changing is not much. We are just changing the cover alone on top. It was green, it becomes purple.
So then, not the content, but the cover.
Yes. Then inside, if you check, 3/4 of the content is what was there. If there are changes, they're just minimal like this. But now, before these changes are being done, did we think about how expensive it will be to the parents? Who suffers are the parents. So right now, as much as the changes in the content could be there to a given kind of extent, the issue is the cost. Why are parents being taxed on this. It's very expensive for the parents. Because a parent can't buy the textbook, right, mathematics textbook for grade 1 today. This year, 2025. Then 2026, the same textbook again appears in a different kind of a color, and the parents are supposed to buy again the same book. It's just the same content. When we shifted from CBC, from 844 to CBC, do you know how many millions of thousands of books were thrown away? Go to schools and see the stores. There are stores with multi-millions of textbooks.
Then as an association, is this something that you have raised with the ministry?
We have been asking this, that books are so expensive, textbooks are expensive. As much as the government is doing the books to the schools, okay, you'll find the government gives books to the schools. But at the end of the day, a child comes at home with a list saying, the teacher has asked me, I go and buy this book, I go and buy this one, I go and buy this one. Why can't KSD just do textbooks with the full content and save parents from this extra costs? She has also talked about some people just coming with the textbooks that are not supposed to be in the market. Right now, if actually that's the situation, and what she's saying, that there are books that have just come out from nowhere, they are not part of what the KSD was doing. KSD should have done investigation quickly to know what are these that are printing these books that are not worth to be in the in the market. Then secondly, if this is the situation, why are the teachers asking parents to buy books that are illegal? They can't be used. So we need to have KICD coming clear on the issues of textbooks, printing the right textbooks at the right time, and sticking on them for 2 or 3 years without changing. Because doing a math textbook today without multiplication, then tomorrow you come and do another, now you're putting the multiplication now. Why couldn't you just do it on the first day, put all that you think these grade 1 children or grade 9 children will have to learn in the course of that period, than changing and making life to be very, very expensive for the parents. So textbooks are very expensive. Parents are right, they are complaining, and I'm very sure the government is watching this. Now, with the private schools, what I would say with the private schools is this, that these are Kenyan children. And even if the books were to be bought by private schools, I still feel the government can regulate the prices of textbooks in the bookshops. They can do that. Because we do not have children in private schools because parents are rich. There are many reasons why we have children in private schools. There are children who cannot do in public schools because of their conditions. You know, they require that attention that is beyond motherly. Okay? There are children who can't feed themselves. There are children who cannot walk. There are children who cannot climb stairs and go up. They ought to be in a school that can favor them. So some private schools have all those facilities. And that's why the parents feel that even if I'm struggling, let me get my child there. I may get a sponsor to assist him.
Okay.
So when it comes to the issue of textbooks, and now the parents in private schools are crying, not only private schools, parents are crying that textbooks prices in the bookshops are higher. The government can regulate those prices. It has the right of doing that.
The reason why
another thing.
No, just a minute.
Yes.
The reason why I'm interjecting, given that we're speaking about textbooks itself, we do have the Kenya Publishers Association who are currently speaking to the members of the Fourth Estate. We want to go there and listen. Let's listen to some of the issues that are being raised there, and then we come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We welcome any comments that you might have.
Thank you, Chair. What is from the Chair here? So, begin with the a question also we can address to the Chairman, and then I can give to us. Yes, Madam.
My name is I know you've talked about the reason why some books, because parents were complaining about some lists from schools, but they could not find them. Perhaps that you think that they're being compiled and then to be ready by February. So the question now is, parents question is that institutions are saying they are not available in all the bookshops.
Okay, that is the Kenya Publishers Association giving a media briefing, and of course members of the Fourth Estate are currently asking questions. We want to listen into some of the questions the members of the Fourth Estate are asking, given that we are talking about textbooks, which has been a major concern, especially for parents who have been visiting various textbook centers, and they are saying they are unable to find some of these textbooks, with the government assuring that, of course, it will be supplied in institutions. But finish your thoughts before we head over back there, Silas. We were talking about that particular issue. Just finish your thoughts, then we head over and listen to the association.
Yeah, so I was just saying that books are a problem. They are expensive, they are a burden to the parents. And, okay, public school parents, the government is supplying books. We are not sure whether they are enough or not, but I can say they are enough because 9 million textbooks being supplied to schools is not a small thing. With private schools, as I've said, let us think about these people because private schools are supplementing in offering education. If they were not there, we will have millions and millions of children out of school. We have some schools called abet schools. Just look at that. There are schools that are just on the scratch. They have nothing totally, but they are struggling to have millions of children also access what? Education. So as the government is planning for these things, let us also request the government that in the future, let it also plan at least for the private schools. Let them say that, okay, if we can give private schools 50%, they can do the other 50% on their own, as we do 100% for the public schools, because that's the government.
Okay.
So that we don't have to look at the children as being in private schools, their parents being rich. They are not. There are very many reasons why we have those children there. There's a question of transition from grade 9 to junior school. The pathways. Parents are still asking, what are these pathways? So right now, the government is supposed to be working very closely with the Parents Association to make sure that parents are empowered through engagement and empowerment. Parents ought to be taken through capacity building to understand what are these issues of transition that are going to take place. Because teachers are being trained, they are being retold, as Madam Irene has said. But still, on the same, as they are retooling teachers, parents are just sitting. They don't understand anything.
Okay. And now let's head over back to the Kenya Publishers Association. As I told you earlier on, they're having a one-on-one conversation with the members of the Fourth Estate. Let's get to listen in.
Process has been done. The books are undergoing corrections by the KICD, and some will be out on the market end of January, others end of February. However, we were quick to clarify that. That does not mean that the books that were used previously are not supposed to be used. Parents, learners, teachers are advised to use those books because what the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development did is to rationalize, and in the process of rationalization, there was combination of learning areas into one. Therefore, in the meantime, all users of the books are advised to continue using what had been supplied before. The second one, I think still from Chebet and another journalist, is with regard to do you purchase the old books and also purchase the new books? The answer is no. That one is the public schools will benefit tremendously, and they have already benefited. Indeed, what the PS, Dr. Berio Kipsang, said, 9.9 million textbooks have already been distributed. And we can advise anybody who has got any doubts, just call any public primary school and ask them whether they have received government textbooks for grade 9. They have received, and we mentioned that only a small percentage has not received, and those books are being distributed this week with a view to accomplishing the exercise by 13th of this month. There is a question with regard to counterfeiting. Sorry, I didn't get your name. But the issue of counterfeiting is a big issue. It has affected publishers, authors, the government, and even the statutory bodies because it is denying the government relevant tax. What happens is these textbooks, the moment crooked pirates realize that a book is selling in huge numbers, they go and start reproducing the same book. In the process of reproducing, there are so many errors that are introduced, mixing up of pages. That is why you find that you have a book, you reach page 15, then it jumps to page 63. You proceed 63 up to 8, then you jump to 100 and something. That book is a counterfeit book. It is a pirated book. This council here has been working with the Kenya Copyright Board as well as the Anti-Counterfeit Agency to fight this menace. and we encourage members of the press to also help us in fighting the menace. The DCI is also hot on the heels. Pirated books do not find their way. Mr. Kebaso has about the issue of
We apologize for that technical glitch, but of course that is the Kenya Publishers Association here in the country, just addressing some of the concerns that my guests were raising here and the parents across the country. You've just heard from the Kenya Publishers Association that by the end of January and February 2025, they will ensure that all the textbooks that are required will be supplied, with 9.9 million textbooks so far being supplied across the country. He says the remaining schools at the end of the day, by the end of this week, they will be supplied with the remaining textbooks, and of course the deadline is the 13th of January. And in terms of the counterfeits that even Irene was raising concerns that she has been witnessing, you've even heard from the Kenya Publishers Association. You can, when you see those instances, you get in touch with the relevant authorities and report them. He says that it is in the pages, the number of pages, if I've got that correctly, it is in the number of pages that you can see if a product, it is the legit one or it is a counterfeited one. Let me now give a chance to Peter, given that we're running out of time. Peter, those are some of the key concerns that were being raised here in the show, and the Kenya Publishers Association has addressed them in a nutshell. Of course, the timing of it all, we congratulate the people who even organized that particular presser to address some of the concerns that were raised here. But with those interventions, will this now ensure that the transition is better?
No, you know, it is the government, the schools, the parents who can make it work. They work together, they share ideas, so that whatever is happening, every party knows what is going to happen. We need to have a public participation again. Wazazi waambiwe, as schools, kwanza, the schools, because they are the ones who are involved directly with the implementation of the CBC. They should know what is happening. They should know the kind of books they are required, how to do assessment, how to train the student, the pupils. My worry is that Irene, she has mentioned the pricing differences between public schools and governments, public schools and private schools. I think the prices should be the same because we are all Kenyans, the students are all Kenyans, and even our constitution says we should be treated equally. I think the government should consider that, so that they give equal opportunities to our students, to our pupils. They should not be discriminated because you happen to be in private schools. And most of the people in private schools, maybe they are sponsored. There are people who are being sponsored by churches, other organizations. That's why they happen to be there. The other thing is that education is, we should not interfere with our education system. And the planners who initiated this thing, they should plan early enough. Because if we interrupt now what is happening, they will interrupt maybe the whole generation of students or pupils. Implementing an education system in our country, this is like what we are doing now. It is new. There is no reference. Irene doesn't know there's no reference to refer to what should be happening. Teachers Association, Parents Association, they don't know what even the reference. There is no reference. At the most of the teachers also, she mentioned they are not literate also in technology. And you happen to be taking a class on computer and other things of the technology, and you are not trained yourself. These are the gaps the government should have looked into, so that the teachers, they are trained well. Yeah.
And of course, Irene, coming back to you, as you responded to what the Kenya Publishers Association have raised, you had raised earlier a query that what happens to the textbooks that we had last year. You've just heard from the Kenya Publishers Association telling you to continue using those textbooks at the end of the day. So the differential there that you're concerned about, has it been addressed now?
Thank you for that. But I know I'm on national television, but just check, I would like them to check again exactly what they have said, that those textbooks are usable. Practically on the ground, I'm on the ground. I deal with these things on a daily basis. There are textbooks, 60% of the textbooks we can't use based on the new curriculum design. For example, the curriculum says, for example, that we teach the child, for example, in the kindergarten, we are supposed to teach, one of the strands is maamkuzi, ama greetings. Or let's just pick something like handling about book, how to handle a book. And they give us like about 3 weeks to teach on how to handle the exercise books and the textbook. And then when you go and say that that is not in the curriculum, and that's what was in the curriculum and was written for us, and then you bring us something else and you say, we shall now not be doing handling of textbooks or exercise books, now we shall teach on writing. You see, content has changed. The reference material for the teacher has also changed drastically. They keep saying that we can be able to refer to them, but I just ask somebody to kindly just look at that very honestly and sincerely to spot, so that the teachers are not confused. As we continue saying kindly use the old books, yet we are printing new books, are you not in yourself contradictory? Because what is the use of printing the new books if then you're saying the old ones are usable? Now, what is happening here? Who's not coming out clearly? If the old books are not to be thrown away, they are to be used, why are we then to be taken to the textbook centers to purchase new books, and with this kind of a rush and a panic? Something is not right. I may not know what it is. The other thing I needed to mention concerning the issue of textbooks is that the cost has almost tripled. The book that used to go for something like 380 currently is going to something like 1,200 and above. And the reason is, there are two reasons they are giving for the reason why the book costs has increased tremendously to the level whereby it becomes a burden for everybody. Is because they're saying the Form 1s are not there. The publishers would in the past be selling to the Form 1s. Minus the Form 1, they are forced to now increase their cost to cover for their own. This is business, end of the day. The other thing is they are quoting the value added tax, the VAT. The tax on these textbooks has also increased. That increase has been pushed to the parents and to the schools. And the government has already an agreement with the publishers that they will get the books for the public schools at a better rate. So they may not necessarily have a genuine clue as to exactly how much any other person coming to the textbooks is getting. And finally, still on the textbooks, and allow me to say this, I'm sorry for it, is that I'm requesting whoever is responsible, if they can hear our cry, get us e-books so that we stop running to textbook centers. Get us a platform where we can digitally access content without necessarily requiring to buy a physical book, so that we only need to get a key, a password, and access information. After all, CBC is supposed to take us digital. Then let's start with the textbooks.
That's a good idea. And of course, let me give you at least 30 seconds each so that we can wrap up this first segment. Let me start with you, Mr. Silas. 30 seconds, tafadhali.
Thank you. Quickly, I want to thank the Kenya publishers because they have seen the mistakes that have been done, and they are talking about correction, taking the shortest time possible to have the correct textbooks on board in schools. That's one thing. The other thing is that, too, I have had the PS talk about forming a task force. Let me call it a task force very soon to check the issues of infrastructure and so on. We are asking the PS to involve parents fully, 100%. Because parents understand infrastructure management in schools. They sit in the boards. They know this very well. But when we see task forces being formed, and the parents assuming being isolated is never in those boards. Okay. So where are the parents? So this, from today, any task force that should be formed, as far as the education issues are concerned, we want parents involved, among other major stakeholders. Okay. Lastly, National Parents Association is a sagas in the midst of education, just like KICD. The government funds KICD. The government is funding KEMI. The government does not fund National Parents Association. So how do we operate? Okay. That's why parents are left on their own. We want the government to be very close to the parents and work with our association. Okay. Because we are in the Education Act, we are anchored there. Okay. We are sagas to the government. Okay. And we want Parliament to take it serious that they should formulate a law quickly to make sure that National Parents Association is funded by the government. Okay. Finally, one thing. As I finish up, CBC was ICT oriented. Even the question of carrying textbooks to schools is a surprise to parents because we thought that children go to schools just walk in and learn. The content mastery by the teachers is key. If the teachers who are supposed to go and teach grade 9 are coming from P1 teachers, actually this can be a very big failure. And then the issue of perceptions. Okay, Mr. Silas. The government must allow parents to be retrained, to be retooled like the teachers to remove those perceptions that CBC is failing. Okay, thank you very much. Peter, finally.
CBC implementation should be run well. If we do it wrongly, we will affect everything. I think we should speak to each other, find the solution, find the way, the best way, so that we implement it well, so that we don't affect the learners, we don't affect the parents. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you for your time. Given that we have run out of time, this is something that can continue. We can talk until the end of the day, but these are some of the issues that are being raised within the education sector. Joining us this morning was Irene Kamau, the director of Kasarani Group of Schools. We do have Mr. Peter Dubai, the education expert, as well as Silas David there, the national chairman of the Parents Association. Thank you for your time. And of course, we wish you all the best. And of course, as you continue to guide some of the learners we do have here in the country. And that concludes our first segment here on a News Check, but don't go too far. We're taking a short breather. When we come back, we're looking at the state of the nation, the current political status in the country, as well as the recent cases of abductions that we have witnessed in the country. And we'll be joined by none other than Reverend Elias Ogola, Shadrach Omboi, a lawyer, Sami Meli, a political analyst. So don't go too far. That conversation is up next.
Hakika ni mume wangu mbona? Si karibu amemtaja. Na alikuwa katika mazingira gani akimtaja?
Wewe kutokusoma kumekukosea sana. Haya, huu upuzi umefundishwa na nani? Ni kuhusu mimba ya Karembo. Ni nani? Hebu toka nje.
Nipeleke kwa kina Karembo. Karembo nani? Utanipeleka ama? Basi ngoja. Sina muda Nuru. Kama wanipeleka nipeleke, kama uwezi niambie uwezi.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
One more, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to share down the place with nothing but the best of smooth way the vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Cold,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Thank you
for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Never be the same by your strength. Tell you this vibe, this lovely vibe, this is the vibe on the beach side. Why you worry? Why you worry? Worry is unnecessary. Child, stay on your race. That is why children are living. Chica. I'm walking, I'm talking, I'm putting the positive vibes. Stop bad mind face. You only come around to do fake things. Your little bad mind face.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who is the man in this one? And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevakishwa. Sio wakati tulikuwa tunapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is our second hour focusing on the state of the nation. Two key areas on the current trajectory of the country, of course, political-wise and governance-wise in terms of the new year. Where are we headed as a country 2 years before we go to a next election, which will be in 2027? But first things first, we want to address some of the concerns that have been witnessed late December of last year as well as early January. You saw all what happened yesterday where the 4 youths who were allegedly abducted were released, and of course the police have started an investigation into that particular matter, and my guests here will be conversing on that particular issue. But before we do so, let's take a look at the story that was prepared by Giverson Minor on these recent cases that were witnessed here in the country.
Monday morning came as a relief to some of the parents whose children went missing during the Christmas festive season last year as they were abducted by unknown people said to be security apparatus. Those freed are Billy Mwangi, Peter Muteti, Bernard Kavuli, and Ronnie Kiplangat. 24-year-old Billy Mwangi was found in Embu early morning and reunited with his family after a harrowing 15-day abduction ordeal.
Mimi ningewashukuru Wakenya wote sababu ya maombi. Ningeshukuru kanisa sababu ya maombi. Kila mtu ameniombea na akalia na mimi. Maombi yetu yote tumeisikia.
Mtoto alikuja saa 2, nisikia mtu kwa gate mtoto anaitana, "Mama, fungua." Sasa ndio nikafungua nikaona he's okay. Hapo kwingine Mungu anajua tu.
Kwanza ni kushukuru Mungu kwa sababu ya kupatikana kwa Billy Mwangi,
na pia nishukuru wananchi wa Embu kwa sababu tumepiga kelele mpaka ikasikika na ikaweza ya kwamba tumempata Billy akiwa hai.
He was abducted on December 21st, 2024 by 4 hooded men at a barber shop in Embu town. Peter Muteti, who was abducted in Kikuyu, was found in Nairobi Central Business District. Bernard Kavuli, who was abducted in Ngong, was found in Moisbridge, Kitale, in Trans Nzoia County, and taken to his home in Ngong and reunited with his family.
Someone has committed any mistake, then this individual must be presented before a competent court of law for formal charging or prosecution for that matter. But to have a state where we have individuals being hounded, where we have individuals getting abducted, like our friend here and our client, Mr. Bernard Kavuli. This is something that flies to the face of our current constitutional dispensation. We are condemning it in the strongest terms possible, and we are hoping that this should be the end.
Ronnie Kiplangat, who was abducted in Kikuyu, was found in Machakos County. It is alleged that his brother cartoonist Gideon Kibet, better known as Kibet Bull, has also been released by his abductors. According to his ex-page, Kibet was dropped in Luanda, Vihiga County early Monday morning and is expected to reunite with his family in Nakuru County. However, his family and the authorities are yet to confirm his release. The whereabouts of the 6 abductees, Steve Mbesi, are still unknown. Police spokesperson Rezila Onyango said the police are investigating the abductions.
And that is the latest development we do have for you. As per now, it is a story that we're keeping an eye on, especially from the investigative authorities here in the country, to update us on how it is going in terms of investigation, which the main question is, who are the abductors? Were they able to pick up those young kids, of course, from their various counties that were recorded? Now, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights recently reported an alarming rise in cases of abduction and enforced disappearances. According to the Commission, 82 cases have been documented since June 2024, with 29 individuals still unaccounted for. The human rights organizations have condemned the abductions, calling for greater accountability from security forces and political leaders here in the country. And joining me for this particular conversation is none other than Sami Meli, a political analyst. Sami, karibu sana.
Asante, happy New Year. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Next to Sami, we do have Reverend Dr. Elias Agola. Welcome,
thank you,
sir.
asante sana.
Welcome once more.
Asante sana.
Welcome for the show.
Thank you.
And of course, Shadrach Wambui, Wakili, we've just seen Wakili there talking about the incident there in Ngong Police Station. Let me start with you, Wakili. Just tell us, without even sensationalizing that particular situation,
Yes.
Kavuli, what did he say?
No, thank you, Abdi, for the invitation, and I would wish first also to take this opportunity to wish you a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
and to the viewers and to the listeners. This is the first time I'm coming here in this new year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am representing Mr. Bernard Kavuli and the family, and we are delighted at this moment that he came back in good peace, in one, feeling well, at the very least, at least from what we will see.
Mm-hmm.
But today he will be presented to a hospital, so where the doctors will be called upon to do some investigations. Some psychiatrists will also equally have an opportunity of, assisting him in recovering, at least mentally, for the ordeal that he has undergone since the 22nd day of December 2024 to the 6th day of January 2025. So we are grateful to God, we are grateful at least to the public for the push. Had it not been for the unity of Kenyans on Twitter, for the press and the freedom of the press within the Republic of Kenya, then probably we will not have received him in one piece as we did yesterday. So for now, the much I can say as to probably his well-being is that we are hoping against hope that all shall be well. We did not speak very thoroughly as to what transpired during that period of time. You remember when we received the call that he had been, found stranded in Kitale, Moisbridge. The only thing that we did was now just to know how we can receive him. There was an indication that we were to receive him in Nakuru. I was actually on my way to Nakuru when I was informed that the police at Kitale had now resolved, I think through some command that had come from a certain direction, to present him to Ngong police station, where the family made a report on the 23rd day of December. So that is the much we can say for now. Remember, I'm also bound by the principle of confidentiality, you know, when we look at the Evidence Act within the Republic of Kenya. But the least that we can say is that all is well. We need to continue with the push and fighting for democracy. I mean, these things are not granted. They're not given. Democracy is said not to be instant coffee. It does not just happen. People fight for democracy. The current constitutional dispensation we are enjoying, this is something that is a fruit of the fights that our people had from the 1963 all the way to the year 2009. Yes, that led to the birth of the current constitutional dispensation in the year 2010, the 27th day of August. Yes.
And of course, Reverend, we saw during the Christmas period, the church voice was clearly heard. As a country and the men of cloth in this particular country, are you concerned with these cases?
Thank you very much. I also want to wish Kenyans a very nice year, Happy New Year 2025, and to encourage us to be part of one another's life by thinking about each other and knowing that I am because you are, and the church remains the voice of the voiceless and the conscience of the society. To your question, whether we are concerned, I think it is known that the clamor for democracy, the clamor for change, the clamor for a better Kenya has always been led by the church and the religious institutions, for that matter, where the church is there, the Islamic community is there, the Hindu community is there. But majorly, the NCCK has played a major role in ensuring that we have a Kenya where every person has a voice and where every person is well served by the government of the day. And so, yes, when the civil society and the Law Society of Kenya and others are adding their voices, they are only adding their voices to what the church has initiated. And when these abductions are going on and when misgovernance is going on in the country, the church is the first to do it. Sometimes we do it in private before we come public, but we are pushed to come to the public when the private talks between a leader and another leader is made and it bears no fruit. Then we are forced to come out and air it. You are aware that in December, the churches, through our church leaders, have been talking and they have been making strong statements and they have been issuing statements and addressing the press, addressing the nation in different worship centers and saying that something has to be done. And the way to deal with dissenting voices is not the use of extreme force, and it's not the use of abduction, taking us back to the eras that we found when we were growing up, and the eras that faded when the clamor for the new constitution and free space was achieved in 2010. So we still remain that voice, and we will not stop talking when things go wrong. But again, we will be warning before they go wrong, because we have our ears on the ground, and everywhere you go in this country, everywhere, at grassroots, you will always see a religious institution. So we hear the people on a daily basis, and we will always voice this. Yes.
Meli, your thoughts?
First, Happy New Year, Hashim, and Happy New Year to the listeners. Number one is that being a parent, it's agonizing to hear that your son or your daughter has disappeared without a trace. It is also agonizing when the same instruments of power that you expect to give you information on how things have gone, where the suspects are perhaps don't know anything. Even the top leadership of the country seems not to know what is going on. This takes us back to the KANU era, where people would disappear. People have paid the ultimate price for us to get this new constitution, where on 27th of August 2010, when it was promulgated, the first clause of the constitution that took effect immediately after the signing and the placing of the seal was the Bill of Rights. I wish our leadership and the supporters, because sometimes it may not be the leader who has orchestrated whatever is happening, it could be a supporter somewhere who got agitated, that we become tolerant to dissenting voices. We become tolerant to a different, somebody who has a different opinion, because if we go back to what has happened in the past, even President Moi had his own silhouettes. The KJ and the Mado and the Gado used to cartoon him, and you would see even the gap in the teeth was wider than the mouth itself, and he had no problem with it. So if the presidency has no problem with those silhouettes, then the followers and the gatekeepers should not have a problem with it. We have seen our president even embracing the sarcasm in all the names that he has been called, and that shows that perhaps the leadership has no problem. There could be a gang somewhere that is, and the instruments of power should get to the root cause of this. We don't want the plowing back of the KANU era, where there were Nyati houses where people were being squeezed to give information. There were Nyayo house torture chambers. We don't want to go there. The police can summon you if they have a problem. The DCI can summon you and tell you, you have contravened this part of the law. Come, we hear your statement, and you are presented in court. I think we have enough men and women with the integrity in judiciary who can prosecute and who can listen to the cases that they have against these people and make a determination. Otherwise, making the young men disappear in this country. And we are not in the dark ages where information. Nowadays, information spreads like wildfire. Yes. So I think our leadership should embrace the dissenting opinions, and at the same time, where there are freedoms, there are responsibilities. I was talking to a friend in the US the other day. He's coming tomorrow, landing tomorrow, and he told me, you guys are over-exercising the freedoms. We have those freedoms in the US, but we have never put our president in a casket. We have never thought of a president being buried, except when they are dead, actually, and the real photos come out. So I think our youth also should learn to be tolerant. We have, if we have a bad government, we have a constitution whereby there are ways of removing that government. One of them is through election. They should marshal themselves. 2027 is here, is coming. They can do what they want and replace the leadership. The other way, they can recall. Another way, they can even ask their members of parliament to pass a vote of no confidence. And those ways are there. Otherwise, if we go this way, where we go to work like a banana republic, where we want to work without the constitution, we are going the wrong way and will spoil this country. Even the media, perhaps those media houses that are advocating and over-advocating for some things, they may not have that space after this country is disintegrated and it becomes something else. We have limits in our rights. Your right ends where mine begins. If you were to punch, make sure you punch, but don't touch my skin. And you have that freedom to exercise. And if you have an issue, sue me. The advocates are here, the lawyers are here, they can present that case in court, and I can be penalized for the mistake I've done.
Yes. And Wakili, we have seen even the judiciary itself getting involved and asking the perpetrators, the IG, to even ensure that the perpetrators are caught and the abductees are produced in court. But you do know that the deadline is tomorrow. The IG is expected to come to court. So are we going likely to see some of these young fellows who have just been freed yesterday coming to court?
Well, the application that lies before court, or the petition first, there is an interlocutory application that had invited the court to compel the Inspector General of Police, amongst other state actors, to present, either dead or alive, the 6 missing gentlemen. But as far as we are concerned, as it is today morning, I do not know whether we have received any other news, but we only have 5 out of the 6 that have been since re-emerged. So tomorrow, perhaps just to confirm whether there is need or wisdom to pursue the reliefs that have been sought, it will be important for the court to be informed whether these gentlemen have since been reproduced. Remember, the court as a protector of liberties must be blind. You know, you remember even the statute that was there, it is blind, Lady Justice is blind and is naked, so that he does not, we will not assume that the judge has seen from our televisions that Bernard Kavuli and the rest have since been released. No, this information must be shared with the court. So on our part, we'll be representing that position or presenting that position to court so that we can inform the court that as far as the interlocutory application is concerned with the production of Mr. Bernard Kavuli, he has since re-emerged. He has since been set free by his abductors. So we will now have to pursue the other reliefs that are in the petition, which now includes the question about the declaration of his rights. Remember, he has rights under the Constitution that have been violated. So we'll be trying to push the conversation, or rather the argument, to persuade the court that indeed from the recounts now, through an affidavit that will be shared, because we'll be filing an affidavit by Mr. Bernard Kavuli. Through that affidavit, we will now try to set down, blow by blow, the accounts that led to his abduction, the incident that happened on the 22nd day of December, and now throughout that period, how they were treating him, whether he was being fed well, whether he was sleeping on a bed, whatever kind of situation that happened during that period, up to the 6th, where he was released by his abductors. So that account will be shared by the court to persuade the court that there are certain declarations that need to be made. Subsequent to that, we will also be persuading the court that in view of the violations having been proved, then the court must exercise or should exercise its power to now pronounce certain compensation so that the person of Bernard Kavuli and the rest can be compensated. But now the only situation that the court has to deal with, or the Law Society of Kenya and other petitioners have to deal with, will be now the question about the missing gentleman from Mololongo. I think it's Steve Musimi. So that is the only individual that now we cannot move forward to making arguments in support or in opposition to the petition until he's been produced. And that is the prerogative duty of the Inspector General of Police, because he's the one that swore to ensure that all of us feel safe within the Republic of Kenya. So that is as far as the matters in court are concerned. But it is important to underscore that when it comes to matters about people infringing on other people's rights, of course we appreciate that your right will end where mine begins. But when I have violated yours, you cannot now take the law into your own hands. You cannot now slap me because I have called you names or have thrown certain jibes at you. No, what you need to do is let us now follow or be respectful to the kind of legal systems we have created for ourselves. If I have insulted you, if you feel very offended about things I have done or I have omitted to do, just go report. After you have reported, let the persons who are given the duty to take action, report me, sue me. If you're using your lawyers for defamation, you will be sued. You will sue other people. You will get compensation. If people have abused the internet, there are certain provisions that the DCI have been using. So take that initiative. After you've taken that initiative, let these people also answer to their offenses. But when we now want to, you want to turn Kenya into these neighboring countries where we do not have laws, or laws that, people have taken themselves to be the all supremo. No, this is Kenya. And Kenya, we have given ourselves a constitution. We have delineated powers and responsibilities. We have said that Mchungaji here will have the responsibility of, looking for souls and converting them for Christ. I have been given the responsibility of safeguarding the constitutional promises that were given to us. Mele there has been given the responsibility of enlightening people so that they make the correct political choices. So we do not want to mix issues, that whatever has been given to Mele, I am doing. Whatever Mchungaji is supposed to do, Mele is doing. So when we end up mixing those issues, we end up now losing a republic. We end up losing the very fabric that has made our constitutional democracy. So we need to respect, knowing too well that we're not doing it for the current Kenya Kwanza dispensation. No, we're not doing it for anybody else. We are doing it for the posterity of this nation. The time that has been set for the President William Dr. Samoei Ruto is just set in law. Whether he likes it or not, if he secures his re-election, he must exit the stage by the year 2032, if he secures the re-election. And that is the law. If we are not comfortable about that position, this is something that should be presented to the people so that the people can change. So we know that there will be a Kenya long after William Samoei Ruto has exited office. We have Kenya long after Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta exited office. And we are doing as we are doing right now. Not very well, but we are still struggling on. We are fighting for democracy.
Okay. Reverend, going forward, what should be seen, especially so that we can never go back to the dark ages you were talking about earlier?
Before that, I would want to add my voice to what Wakili has said, that if the courts said that the Inspector General should produce these people, alive or dead, the lawyers should not cut corners. They should go to what the court ordered. And I like what Wakili said, that one of them was found in Kitale, but the report was made in a police station in Ngong. So the police station is under the Inspector General of the police. And so these people should be produced by the police now to the courts, so that we continue to push for the one that has not been found. But if it is a gentleman agreement that now that they are found, the Inspector General is not obliged to produce them, that may not be good. I would want to see a country where we have our laws, we interpret them, and we follow those laws to the letter. And when that is done, then we will not be in a banana republic, we will not be in a country with laws that are not being followed. And the rules that we have, including the constitutional provisions, have to be respected by all. Answering your question, the leaders are supposed to respect the Constitution. The rights are there, but as somebody has said, I don't want to say they end where yours begins. I'm saying that each one of us is living within their rights. It's a parallel movement where you have yours, I have mine, and I respect yours. So there is no way, if it is parallel, then I will infringe into yours. We will be respecting one another, we'll be living with one another, we'll be performing something that is going to take us forward. So for somebody to misuse also the freedom that is given by overstepping their mandate, I think that one should also stop. Whether we have freedom to draw cartoons or not, we need also to know, you draw my cartoon, am I happy with it? But then, if I'm not happy with mine, again, I should also ask myself, how should I counter what you have done? Is it by abducting you? Is it by causing pain to your family? Is it by causing an uproar? Or why are you exactly doing it? I think some of these things that are happening in this country today is a distraction from the real issues. We have the issue of the IBC, which is threatening the fabric of this country. If anything happens to anybody in elective positions, as it has happened already in some constituencies, why would you be punishing somebody in a particular constituency, a particular ward, just because you do not want to set up an institution that is guaranteed in the Constitution? I take all these abductions to be distraction from the real issues. The real issues that Kenyans are asking, Kenyans are asking for a proper health care, a proper education system. Kenyans are asking for a proper commission that will help us in case we have issues that call for elections, including today. Why would somebody block that? Why would somebody not talk about that and distract our minds by abducting people? I'm not saying the government is doing it, but I can as well say you cannot be in charge and not know what we are doing. When we got into this table this morning, you gave us your rules about our phones, about anything that we are doing here. You have your rules. So who is supposed to ensure that these rules are adhered to? It is you. Why? Because you are the one who KBC has put in charge here. Now, if we have put you in charge of this country, we have put you in charge of these other sectors in the country, why are you telling us that you don't know where these people are? Yet you have people who are being paid by the taxpayers. I would want to say, to answer your question, that the leaders have a share of a responsibility. All leaders, not only political leaders, even us in the religious sector and leaders in the political sector, the leaders in the corporate sector, all leaders have a share of their responsibility, which is distinct from the people that they lead. And the citizens also have a share of their responsibilities. You cannot just blast a leader anyhow. It is not ethical, it is not allowed. But at the same time, children have to be children. Sometimes you have to let them to be children so that we know how to guide them. And in guiding, we don't cause a lot of pain to their parents, as has been. You saw that gentleman, that mzee, cry. He cried in the courts. Do you want to see the tears of your fellow man any day, crying because of the child that is being claimed to have been abducted by unknown people, and they are still just here? We do not want instances of what happened in Shakahola, where people die and you say you didn't know. Is there a chief in that area? Is there an assistant chief? Is there a village man in that area? And how would things happen in that area and somebody says he doesn't know? So we are not going to allow such things to happen without our voice. And we keep on saying that all of us are leaders. Let us consult when things are wrong. Let us know that all of us have a country to protect, and we need to turn ourselves into champions of peace and champions of a better Kenya.
And of course, Millie, you're even nodding in agreement with the Reverend when it comes to addressing this particular concern. So as a Kenyan and Kenyans out there who will be waiting to see if the IG will even appear before the courts, is accountability and responsibility expected to be shown there?
The National Police Service main mandate is to maintain law and order. So the Inspector General should know first that his duty is to make sure that there is law in this country and order. If he has been summoned to appear in court, what does the law say? You respect the law because you are the symbol of where law and order is, not disloyalty and disorder, where there is no law and there is no order. This country, we have a law that we follow. The word of the courts is as good as the Constitution. If the court, the magistrate or the judge rules that you appear you just have to appear. You remember, we don't want a scenario whereby, like last time, where the acting IG was asked to come and he didn't appear, and then there was a warrant of arrest, and nobody knows who will arrest the Inspector General of Police, because the rest of the officers are their juniors. So what we are looking for is an Inspector General who knows what is going on in the country, so that we say, the buck stops with the President, being the appointing authority. But the National Police Service should do its job. It shouldn't tell us that we don't know. So who knows? If they don't know, then does it mean now we take laws into our own hands because the instrument given that responsibility do not know? Today, before the end of the day, the Inspector General should know where these young men are, bring them together and present to the court and say, these are the 5 I have received. There's one more who is still missing. And I am agonizing with those parents of that young man because you don't know what is going on. It is good to know a child who has been arrested who is in a police cell because you can even take bread and milk for them, some food, you can have a chat of 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. The advocate can visit them at any time. But now, where the child seems to be living in a cocoon somewhere in this country where no one knows. And the way they were released, all of them the same day, is suspect. The police know something. There is somebody in this country who is in charge of that. And if there is somebody who is in charge of that, that we should get to the deep root, the depth of all this and know why did this person arrest these young men, keep them incommunicado for all those days. They didn't celebrate their New Year. They didn't celebrate. Some did not even see Christmas. Some were supposed to report in an institution where they had gotten scholarship, and they could not make it because you have just come and kidnap. And what is wrong in case somebody has done a mistake, appearing at their home and say, we are the DCI, we are the police, we are the NIS, we are pursuing your son because of certain interests. Kindly, if you have a lawyer, because I think there are those rights. You have the right to remain silent, and if you have a right to a lawyer, if you need one. Our police don't say that. They just arrest you. So, and I think we are operating in a certain manner where the president should refuse this. He should refuse if there is somebody who has done a mistake, and he should even summon the Inspector General and ask him, I gave you a job. What are you doing? Yes. Why would people ask me where the people, the abductees are when you are there? In fact, the question should be directed to the Inspector General and his deputies and the entire police service, because they are the people who patrol the entire country. They know every corner of the country. Where are the chiefs, as we are saying? Where are the village elders? Nowadays, we even don't know our village elders. I'm sure even where the good lawyer lives, he doesn't know the chief or the assistant chief of that area, because they have retreated. Who's doing the job? Everybody has retreated to their comfort zone. And like the president is the one talking about government projects, and even the PSS don't talk about it. The cabinet secretaries don't talk about it. Thank God the other day, the few who have come on board are now speaking, and we are getting to understand what is going on in the country. Otherwise, we have a situation whereby everybody, we are saying everybody for himself and God for us all. But we have a government we put in place. The government starts from the lower level all the way to the top. But the president should hold those people responsible. Even if he doesn't know what happened, he should ask the Inspector General. The National Police Service, this body where it, what do you call it?
NIS.
Not NIS, the one that checks on the, confirms checks and balances in the police service. IPOA. The IPOA should come out again at the same time and ask the Inspector General, because perhaps the chairman or whoever is in charge of IPOA is under the Inspector General. He should be above him and ask him questions. We are hearing complaints about this. Please report to us what is not happening. Because we are waiting until the masses come to the streets. That's when we act. And that's so unfortunate. Supposing it happens like the other day, we couldn't control the masses. What would happen? And at the end of the day, we lose other young men. Something somewhere is not right.
And of course, a disclaimer on what you've just said earlier, in terms of the suspect being released in the same actually day that suspected the police know. We are yet to establish that. Let me go to Shadrach. Because we cannot establish, you're not an investigative agency here. Let me go to Shadrach. Shadrach, you've just said something very, very interesting, and even Reverend has touched upon it. So if the sixth individual is not produced in court tomorrow, what happens? What scenarios are likely to play out tomorrow?
Well, perhaps even before I respond to that, you know, Meli mentioned something about my area chief.
Yeah.
my area chief, unlike those other chiefs probably, is called Mr. Moshi. And he's a hard worker. He's actually an assistant who had been promoted now to the assistant chief in Olkeri ward. And I know he's a hard worker. We had an incident even at night. And, you know, he's been trying to coordinate with the members of Olkeri. So I think in Kajiado North, we are safe for now. Now, when we want to at least analyze what is likely to happen tomorrow, it means that while we had hoped that the production of the 6 people will automatically lead to the application having been overtaken by events, so that we can now dive into the issues in the petition to help now in you know, proving to court that the rights that we have alleged have been violated have actually been violated, so that now the court can proceed and award different compensations, or a compensation, a global sum compensation for all the abductees. So the absence of this 6th person who had been abducted means that we now have to remain at the same position, so that we can compel the Inspector General of Police by whatever means necessary that he leads to the production, or he causes the production of these 6 abductees. You know, Abdi, there is a way in which we need to also clarify to the minds of the viewers. There is the workings of the law. You know, the law works in very mysterious ways. In Ngaimurunya, Peter Munderu will tell you that sheria ni msumeno, unakata mbele na nyuma. So, and it is important that you understand that sometimes you are given an obligation to do something, so that if you fail to do it, then that inaction, it is in itself negligence when it comes to your responsibility. And I'm making reference to this, especially in regards or in reflection to what the Inspector General of Police had mentioned previously. When the Inspector General of Police was asked whether he knows you know, about these abductions, as the IG of the Republic of Kenya, he said he is not aware, he does not know who is causing the abductions. Remember, when he took his oath of office, he was given a certain duty. And because of this duty that we bestowed upon him, number 1, to help us in investigations. Number 2, to ensure that we have the enforcement of the law within the Republic of Kenya. So those 2 responsibilities, and you know, number 3, to help in the appointment of you know, his officers, so that when it comes to those 3 responsibilities, he cannot be directed by any person. He cannot be directed by the minister in charge of interior. He cannot be directed by the president. He cannot be directed by anybody. Even he cannot be directed by the DPP. But the only person who has a window to direct the IG as far as the law is concerned is the DPP, who can direct him to conduct certain investigations on certain areas. But as to how he does his responsibility is entirely upon himself as an independent officer, state officer who has been appointed by the Constitution. So this person who has been appointed by us, or given that responsibility by us, is paid by the taxpayer. So he is expected to take certain actions. He is expected to do some certain things in ensuring that he enforces the law and he does investigations. So when he comes to us and he tells us that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I am sorry, I have just wringed my hands, there is nothing I can do, I do not know what is happening. That is in itself is called inaction. You want to compare it with a lifesaver in a swimming pool. If you are swimming at a certain swimming pool in a public place, and I am the lifesaver. If you see someone drowning, Abdi, you have no responsibility in law to help that person who is drowning. You only probably, Mchungaji will tell you have a moral duty to save the person that is drowning. But when the lifesaver, I have a duty in law and morality, in morals, to ensure that I save the person that is drowning. So if the lifesaver does not save the person that is drowning, action, including manslaughter, that action can be taken against the lifeguard, as opposed to you, Abdi, who saw that person drowning but you did not take action. So this is to say that if you are given a certain responsibility, you need to discharge it. You discharge it faithfully, you do it as the law so requires. So I think that was very misguided of the Inspector General of Police to come and make those assertions. So if we have a problem, we just don't want to make it so obvious that if I have offended you, the next thing that you do is now to take a panga and then unanikata mapanga lay. We do not want those things. We want people to be very serious in the manner in which we want to deal with ourselves. Remember, as a democracy, we exercise what is called the art of compromise every day. I mean, if I wanted, probably it will serve me best if I will have placed my legs, on the seat that is seated by Muchungaji to just allow Muchungaji to stand. But I need just to compromise, to allow Muchungaji also to have his comfort of the seat as I endure the situation I am finding myself, so that I can go to my house and place my feet on my table or in another seat. That is how we are supposed to live within the Republic of Kenya. Okay. So we are hoping that even as we speak about what is going to happen tomorrow, even as we reflect about what has happened, that this should be an end. There should be an end. The president has given us his word that they are going to end the abductions. Let that be an end. If there are people who have led to these things, because I know there are certain police officers who sometimes are being misled. We have changed the way of doing things. Now, in as much as we want sometimes to invoke the command theory, where the IG will take responsibility. Remember, the Constitution has also said that people are going to take personal responsibility. Kila mtu anabeba msalaba wake. So if there are police officers who did what is said to have been done, they know from where they are that responsibility will be taken kwao. They are the ones who are going to be interdicted. Yes, you cannot but I'm saying, there are certain investigations. Yes. Like tomorrow we are going to be recording a statement. So, and sometimes we have change in regimes. Remember, there are people who did what they did during Uhuru's time. They have their own problems right now. So we have people who are being misused probably by this regime, arguably so. They must know that, yes, I'm saying arguably so. I mean, it's just a figure of speech. So that when we are done with this regime and another one comes, because these criminal offenses do not have an expiring date, they must know that probably one day when they fall out of favor or there is a certain change in regime, they're going to be called to question. So people need to know, ukiambiwa ufanye mabaya, unakataa katakata.
Let me go to Reverend now. Reverend, what are some of the recommendations, especially from the NCCK? What have you brought forth, given that we have witnessed so many instances where the church has intervened, given certain recommendations? In this particular instance, what are those recommendations and how can they be applied?
Well, the church, as I've said, has always been on top of everything, because our informers are the grassroots. Our informers are the people that all this happened to. And the church is only saying, if you have any issue with a brother, call that brother, talk to that brother. If the brother is able to change, the better. If there is undermancy and somebody is not willing to change, then you look for a better way of dealing with them. And in Kenya, the better way is the better way of the law. And as we have always said, if there is anybody who has done something that is not right, we have the legal procedures of how to handle these issues. Abduction is something that I would say is primitive, is something that is outdated, is something that should not be allowed to happen in this era. So the church is saying, anything that you think is going wrong, look for a way of solving it within the structures that are there. But apportioning blames and running away from the issue, saying I don't know, while you are the person who is supposed to know, then that leaves us in a situation where we become hopeless. We would want to see a Kenya where the presidency is respected, all the leadership is respected. But we also want to see a Kenya where those who are respected and are expected to be respected reciprocate by giving the service delivery to the people and ensuring that Article 28 and 29 of the Constitution that talks about human dignity and talks about the security of the people is upheld, is enhanced. And that is what the church is calling the government to do and anybody in leadership to do. At the same time, the church is also saying that we are a people that are supposed to act within the law. If what you are doing is not within the law and is wrong and may lead you also into problems, sometimes we need to learn even to tone down. But our young people are in this space and we just need to guide them in the right way. We just need to talk to them. But we as the church is completely against abductions, is completely against handling with excessive power the people who hold dissenting opinions. Always people will criticize you, they will critique whatever you are saying, but sometimes that is an opportunity for you to ask yourself, am I communicating well? Because the biggest problem we have in this country today is talking without listening. The people who are supposed to listen so that they act are not listening. They are just talking. And they would want to behave as if we are still in the 90s. In the 90s, there was no internet. In the 90s, nobody had a phone. Now, every person, including a very small child, has a what? Has a phone. And everything we would want to get is real time. So if you are going to be abducting people because they are having dissenting opinions and labeling them as anti-government, anti-progress, anti-good Kenya, we are not going to allow that. Because as a church, we stand and saying, these young people have a voice. If that voice is not resonating well with what you are saying, then look for a better way of handling these young people. You cannot abduct your future. Because whenever you abduct young people, you are abducting your future. Whenever you are killing them, whenever you are maiming them. And you know, maybe you are taking them to places and taking their fingerprints, ruining their lives, so that tomorrow when they appear for a job interview, they have a very wrong, record where all their life is ruined because of a suspicion that cannot be substantiated. And so I would want to say that the church is here to say that the abductions are wrong and we are not supporting it. It cannot be supported by anybody. And everybody has to be respected.
Given that we've run out of time, let me split 30 seconds each between Shadrach and Meli. Let me start with Meli. 30 seconds, tafadhali.
Number one is that I've always said that where there is freedom, there are responsibilities. And the responsibility also is with the government and the people. So when you exercise your responsibility, your rights, remember there are also consequences of not observing the law. So, but one of the consequences is not abduction. So anyone who is still doing abduction should know that we have changed. We have information. Information is power. Our children now know how to read, write, and even interpret the law itself. So, and remember when Mwai Kibaki gave us free education in 2003, these are the products, the people who are informed, the people who can make choices for themselves. For our young people, let's be tolerant. At the same time, exercise our rights with responsibility.
Okay, Shadrach, quickly. I know you can speak faster.
Yes, Abdi. I think the overall assessment I have of the situation is that we have a failure in leadership, especially at our parliament or legislators. We have totally failed I mean, you've not seen our members of parliament, summoning the Inspector General of Police to ask them questions, trying to also mash up resources and try to call people to account, as they did when they were removing Rigiji from office. So in Kajiado North, for example, we have had at least a total of about 5 abductions. But when we have these abductions, we have not even seen our area member of parliament speak about the whole issues. We have not seen him, drawing a motion to parliament, asking, as Babu Owino has done for his constituent, calling this, or inviting the speaker to come up with a special sitting where these people can discuss. We had in July, we had the abduction of Solomon Dennis Wanda. We had Jemima Lemomo, who were abducted only for them to re-emerge, being taken to the police, and then now being charged in court. And those charges were ultimately dismissed from the courts. So we just need to be serious about the personal liberties of people. It is not good for you to torture people, to remove them from the comfort of their houses. Just let us use the means that are there. If someone has wronged, if someone has done something that is not palatable, just present them before a competent court of law for them now to face the full force of law.
Okay, unfortunately, we have run out of time. That is Shadrach Omboy, a senior counsel at the Corridors of Justice. Thank you for joining us. And of course, we do have Reverend Dr. Elias Agola. Thank you for coming in, Reverend, once more. And then finally, Sami Meli, who is no stranger to us, a political analyst here at KBC. And of course, that concludes our conversation this particular morning. Don't go too far. My fellow colleague, that is Kasichana Masha, is up next with Kurunzi Mashinani. Good morning for now.
Thank you.